Hey everyone, welcome to Zon and Canada. I'm your host, Jesse Betteridge. Randy is joining me today.
Hey.
And we're going to talk about a few news items, primarily just what on earth is going on with The Boy and the Beast's theatrical and home video release in Canada. If you haven't been keeping up with that, the answer may surprise you. But just before we start, Randy, it's been a while since you were on the show. How you been?
I've been pretty good. The school and work keep me really busy.
Yeah.
And anime in the past time.
Have you been following anything over the last little while?
Yeah, from this season I've been watching Erased.
Oh yeah.
and that's been really the only show I've been really keeping up with. Some of the other shows I've been following were the Rakugo show and Konosuba, and I've fallen behind on both of those a little bit.
How is Konosuba? I haven't checked that one out. I heard it's pretty funny.
Konosuba is way better than it has any right to be, and it's actually pretty fun. And it really shocked me. I thought that it was just going to be like this garbage MMO virtual world becomes real life kind of show, and it ended up becoming kind of playing to that and becoming like just subverting lots of stuff.
Yeah. Well, when you get 3 or 4 of those a season, I mean, chances are one of them is going to be a little playful at some point.
Yeah. And it's really good. The main girl is a god who was like forced into the world against her will, and she's most of the comedy of the show is her just trying to react to like this new world, and it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I will probably check that out at some point soon. But yeah, I just got caught up on Erased myself the other night, and we haven't seen the last episode yet. I don't know what's your take on the direction it's been going in.
I thought it's been pretty good the whole way through. The reveal episode is a bit hacky.
Yeah,
to say the least.
To say the least, yeah.
I can't go into spoilers, obviously, because it's a very spoiler heavy show. But it did the thing I didn't want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it took a different route, and it ended up going exactly where I hoped it wouldn't. And it's recovered from that a bit in the latest episode. I'm curious to see how it's going to finish up.
We'll see. I wasn't too impressed with the last 2 episodes, to be honest. I thought that second last episode, I think it went in what I thought was a really dumb direction.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they skipped some content from the manga as well,
mm-hmm.
which has resulted in, who is supposed to be one of the main characters of the show, or one of the primary characters, has just been dumped completely. Which is a shame because, she got a fair bit of focus at the beginning and middle points of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I don't think that she would have salvaged that last little role she was supposed to play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, still disappointing that they made that decision. But I guess that's what happens when you cram 8 volumes of manga.
Yeah, and it's a shame because the start of the series was so absolutely great, and really I think like the strength of the first half of that show is enough to keep it in people's minds for the rest of the year at least.
Absolutely. Keep in mind that your mileage may vary on the ending, I guess, or what we've seen the ending so far. But I mean, check out the first couple anyway, no matter what.
Yeah,
it's got a strong start. Definitely worth checking out, even if the ending is ultimately kind of a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah. But I mean, anime generally doesn't have a strong record with endings, so
very true.
Yeah, at least it's going to end is the benefit.
It's nice that they managed to tie it in with the manga ending,
mm-hmm.
all right, and get that in there. The fact that there's a live action movie, no doubt, had something to do with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, going back a little bit, I've actually been checking out Fate Zero.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I've never seen anything from the Fate franchise. Well, I saw a little bit of like the old Fate Stay Night anime back in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the whole I didn't think it was good. I thought the whole premise was kind of dumb, and like, let's be honest, the premise is kind of dumb.
It is.
But I gotta say, Fate Zero has kind of sold me on it. That is solid execution. A lot of unnecessary child murder, but I can look past that.
Yeah, Fate Zero is quite a different take for the whole series as a whole. I've been a fan of Fate. Actually, I was a fan of Type Moon's first game, Tsukihime. It was one of those titles that was everywhere when I was first getting into anime. I actually ended up buying a copy of Fate's Day Night, the game, on my first trip to Anime North, and I still have it to this day. It's a very nice limited edition, and I'm kind of astounded that I own it when I see that this was a limited edition, and it has like this really cool art book and such in it, and it's just like this really cool thing. Fate's Day Night, I've never really liked the shows that much. The first series I thought was pretty hokey.
Yeah.
The first movie I thought it looked really good for the standards of that day. Not so much anymore. But there was no plot to speak of in that movie, basically. And now with the Ufotable stuff, it's gotten a lot more polished and a lot more interesting, and they finally know how to properly market and make that show. And I think it's to the benefit of everyone now.
Yeah, that's what happens when a show's reputation can sometimes elevate something beyond what it was ever meant to be. That's what I kind of feel like Fate Zero is. And it's interesting that show came out in 2011, which was the same year that Madoka was airing on TV. And even though I know Gen Urobuchi wasn't involved with the Fate Zero anime,
right.
he wrote the light novels. So that was really his banner year.
Yeah, that was his coming out year for sure.
Yeah. Anything else?
Psychopaths, the movie, is going to be screening in Canada. It already has. It screened on the 16th, and it's screening again on here in Winnipeg on the 27th. And I've been catching up on the show because I've never seen the show in preparation. So I actually just finished the last episode about 15 minutes before we started recording. I thought it was pretty outstanding. I wasn't too hot on the first half. But the final episode of the first half does something that really grabs you. This really fantastic scene between the main character Akane and the main villain Makishima. That's absolutely wonderful, and it really made my ears perk up. And I paid attention to the rest of the show, and the rest of the show just kept at that level, and it ended up being this really interesting story of like utopia and the machinations to keep it going, and if it's worth it to make a perfect society at the loss of rights.
Well, just what you value in a perfect society, or what values can build that construct. It's really interesting. I am going to see the movie at the end of the month as well. Actually, the second screening is during SoccerCon, which I'm going to be at this weekend, but. The Rio Theater here in Vancouver is doing an extra screening the day after on Monday.
Oh, nice.
I'm probably going to catch that. I might have to go back and rewatch a few of the last episodes though, because I'm a little hazy on how that ended, and of course I'm not even going to bother with season 2.
Yeah, my friend or my roommate, she really wants me to watch the second season just to cause me pain, and I'm not sure if I want to or not. I probably will just be a completionist, but everything I've heard of it is that it's garbage, so I'm not really looking forward to that at all.
Yeah. So we have other theatrical stuff we're going to go into mainly, but first I just wanted to mention, I have noticed, just tracking my numbers and stuff for the podcast, that there are a number of people who are still following this show through the blog at zonen.ca, and that's great, but keep in mind that I tend to post these episodes on the blog much later than they're actually uploaded. So you can follow the show directly on SoundCloud is one way to get the episodes right as they're uploaded. But what I recommend doing above all else is subscribe to Zonen Canada on iTunes or Stitcher or one of the many podcast apps that you can find out there for your mobile devices. That way you don't have to chase, all these different social media outlets for updates on the show. New episodes are brought directly to you. That is the podcast way. Absolutely foolproof. And if for some reason Zonen Canada is not showing up on your podcast app of choice, please let me know either through the Zonen Canada Facebook page or on Twitter at Zonen Canada or email zonencanada@gmail.com. Also worth noting, very likely by the time you listen to this episode, it will be the 1-year anniversary of launching this podcast. Zonen Canada relaunched as a podcast on March 26, 2015. Of course, I'd love to hear from all of you. If let me know how you think the show has been. What have I done right? What could be better? What else do you feel you could be getting out of the show? I'm definitely open to suggestions. Let me know on social media, and of course, a rating or review on iTunes is always appreciated. So drop me a line if you have anything to say. Moving on to our main topic, the new Mamoru Hosoda film, The Boy and the Beast, from the director of Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Summer Wars, and Wolf Children. This film right now is just finishing its limited run in the U.S. Up until about early March, Funimation had been advertising that they were releasing The Boy and the Beast in theaters, both in Canada and the U.S. But when they actually posted the theater list, Canada was mysteriously gone, and Funimation stopped giving any kind of indication that the film was going to be released here through them. I would imagine that most people are probably still wondering what happened. Why did Funimation not release the film here? As we kind of indicated before, they're releasing Psycho Pass. Their 2-day, 3-day limited screenings always seem to make it up here. But for some reason, The Boy and the Beast, a fairly high-profile movie, did not. Not only that, Funimation actually blocked Canadians from accessing the trailer on YouTube. Probably an unnecessary move. But when asked about it on Twitter, Funimation actually confirmed that someone else would be releasing the movie here in Canada, both theatrically and on home video, which is actually an unprecedented situation. I don't think there's actually ever been a situation before where a U.S. anime distributor did not have both the Canadian or U.S. and Canadian rights to a film like this. However, they did not confirm who the party was. Also, they did not, or more importantly, they did not publicly acknowledge that they did not have the rights. If you asked them, they'd acknowledge it, but they wouldn't say who. They wouldn't give details or anything. If you do any research, you will show that the company releasing the film here in Canada is Mongrel Media. They will be releasing it theatrically and on home video and on VOD. And that release actually starts in May. So there's a weird little 2-month delay there for some reason. So Randy, what do you think? Did Funimation drop the ball, or do you think we might this might actually be for the best?
I really don't know. This is such a weird situation I've never even heard of this happening, or even considered that it really could happen. I know that they use their service for I think it was 11 Arts. Maybe it's changed since then, for Dragon Ball Z, to show their movies all across the Cineplex theaters, and I was wondering why they hadn't done that yet.
Yeah.
And then the news came out that they didn't have it at all, and even talking to one of my acquaintances who works at Funimation, they said, they didn't even tell me outright they didn't have it. They linked me to a news piece that said Funimation announces Boy and the Beast for U.S. theaters, and it was this really
that's very
weird situation.
If you talk to them in person, would they just played charades or something?
I think if I always talked to them in person, they would have told me outright.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's just because it was through Twitter and they have to be professional. That they really couldn't say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just I don't think it's Funimation's fault. Is what I'm kind of thinking.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it really
fault
is.
It is. My suspicion, or rather the suspicion that seems to be going around, is that it's Gaumont that has caused this to happen. Why? I honestly can't say. But Funimation is actually has their fingers in the international distribution in this movie, and apparently they are partnering with the French distribution company Gaumont to release the movie. And it's possible that they didn't want Funimation handling the Canadian release for some reason, which is kind of weird. A number of reasons. Maybe Funimation or their previous efforts to do movies or to do film festival style releases for films like this in Canada just wasn't up to snuff. And let's face it, it's not.
No,
I mean, they with the previous Hosoda films, Summer Wars and Wolf Children, they totally dropped the ball. on
absolutely.
those. Like,
Uh,
totally.
it makes me wonder if it isn't like a Hosoda specific problem because we didn't get like Wolf Children wasn't a wide release or
No.
I say wide release as in all across Canada. I think it screened in some theaters in Vancouver and Toronto, but
That's,
not
yeah.
but like not Canada as a whole, which is quite bizarre for a movie of like from Hosoda who got a lot of uh clout from doing Summer Wars.
Yeah, it screened at a few festivals and
Hmm.
theaters. But those particular ones, I think, were proactive at getting those
Hmm.
films. If they showed up in Advanced City Theater in Vancouver and the Rio and a couple in Toronto,
Hmm.
that's it. And I think that's more because of those theaters wanted to show them more than it is because that Funimation was making any effort to push them up here.
I think
And
that's the case too.
yeah, and Summer Wars was particularly dire.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
we were very lucky to even get that one in Vancouver, and even then it was only like a one night screening at the Rio, and they showed it like again a couple years later. But
Yeah, we actually there was a very very small film festival called I think it was called Plastic Paper that was an animation film festival, and they got the rights to screen Summer Wars, and I think they were really proactive too. I think this was even before Funimation had announced that they had the rights to it even. But like but a few months later, or like whenever they really announced it, Funimation didn't have any kind of Summer Wars uh, screening at all in Winnipeg either. It
yeah,
was just that one little film festival on a very small screen. I was thankful to see it because that's a great movie to see in theaters in any
absolutely,
case.
yeah. It's
But it
definitely
was just really interesting.
I think it's definitely Hosoda's best film as well. And
I think so.
to this day, if you have an opportunity to see Summer Wars in theaters, you've gotta. It'll still pop up in like some independent theaters now and again, depending where you are. But but I mean, Summer Wars, the situation for that movie theatrically wasn't even much better in the U.S. either. I mean, they even working with G Kids, they could barely pull off an Oscar like a Oscar eligibility screening
Right.
in L.A., which was really really unfortunate because I think that movie totally had deserved a nomination. But it really seems like Hosoda, even going back to Summer Wars, since Summer Wars, even Hosoda is kind of too big a deal for Funimation's scattershot releases.
Yeah, I think that's largely becoming the case for Hosoda. He's just got this uh, prestige about him that's continuing to grow, and I don't think Funimation is necessarily ready to handle that kind of uh, release per se.
They always like their entire theatrical strategy for everything has just been cutting corners always.
Yeah.
Like even with Dragon Ball, the Dragon Ball Z films, I mean they cut corners to an extent that they really shouldn't. I mean those movies really should have had wide releases. I
Yeah,
don't
they should
understand
have.
how they have not been able to pull that off.
Hmm.
It is possible under Mongrel that we'll see a wide release because let's face it, even in the States, the 3 day screening that that Boy and the Beast got probably that's doesn't quite cut it. I think.
No,
And I think
I don't think so.
yeah,
Even though from what I've heard, this is his weakest film. Of course, I would need to see for myself to know if that's true or not. Even so, like it deserves something bigger, and it would get more audience too. I don't understand why they're not really like pushing this. Like even though I don't really like the term, but even if they threw on the new Miyazaki around a bit, that would get a lot of a lot of clout. I really don't like that term,
yeah,
but
I
that
really
would
don't like
be
that term either.
but that's a good marketing term to use. It would get lots of people interested, and like people are already throwing that term out anyway,
Yeah,
and he's getting his reputation for that, and it's not carrying through to distribution and releases,
yeah.
which I don't think that's a very smart business strategy in the first place to do.
Just out of curiosity, I know that Funimation only recently got the rights to The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, but
Yeah.
like, did that get any screenplay in Canada at all? I know it didn't play in Vancouver, which is weird because it was dubbed here.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that Bandai was kind of grasping at straws with that one originally too. But of course, like that was Hosoda's first, non One Piece.
Yeah, and that was
film,
also
so,
like that was also before anime screenings really became a thing here
yeah.
as well. Girl Who Left the Time was probably one of the first movies that could have had a release here. Like before that, I think like apart from the odd Naruto movie, the first like big theatrical release I can remember seeing is maybe the Madoka movies were the first big ones that came out that I can think of. I'm sure there were more that were pretty prolific, but that's the first that I remember like started this
Ava
boom
2.
of...
Ava 2.
Oh yeah, the Avas, yeah.
Was, or that, I mean, there was the first Ava.
Yeah.
I think there were Funimation and Viz had experimented a little bit before that, but the Ava ones were really the first ones that I think really did well. The second one in particular,
yes.
And you know they continue to do well enough just to keep chugging along. Sometimes to the point where the Cineplex Canadian releases are actually bigger than the US ones, just due to the natures of the deals they strike, I guess.
Yes, I had forgotten about Ava. That's definitely the earliest one that I can think of at that point now. Besides, like, the first Naruto movie, which I saw when I was, like, 17 or whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, it's possible that, getting a Quebec dub produced may have played a role in this as well. Since, Hosoda is a big deal, yet I don't think any of his films have been dubbed in Quebec yet.
Oh.
Or gotten really a release that has any kind of French language stuff on it. So I could definitely see Gaumont wanting the movie to go to a distributor that had the resources to handle that market as well. Because that, again, he's a big name to kind of leave that market out of. It's also possible that I would not be surprised at all if Mongrel's home video release of this movie is better than Funimation's.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't interest me either. Of course, I plan on buying that release, the Funimation release, whenever it comes out, because it's going to come out before the Mongrel Media release. I think it has a street date of June or July. It's going to be coming out.
It's in June, I think. Actually.
Yes, June, because it's the same as the Girl Who Left the Time release. I just hope we get a theatrical screening before that.
Mongrel's releasing it in May.
Oh,
and like the fact that it got that delay probably means that this was a last minute thing too. Because I mean, it's bought, like, again, who knows what happened, but it almost seems like Funny may have actually had the rights, and then Gaumont turned around and said, no, you can't do that, or something like that. It's probably much more complicated than anyone would care to admit.
Yeah, I would think, like, that makes the most sense. We're just speculating, like, we don't really know the inner workings of whatever industry could do this.
Yeah, I did reach out to Mongrel to try and get more information on the release. They haven't gotten back to me. If they do, I'll just tack that information onto the end of the episode. Hopefully we'll know soon. But Mongrel also has not said anything really about this release. If you ask them on Twitter, they will acknowledge it. It's listed on their website, but there's been no promotion, no real push. I'm assuming that, now that Oscar stuff's over, they're probably kind of switching gears a little bit, but it seems that this is kind of being thrown together at the last minute, and I'm not sure if they really are set. Because Mongrel handled Paprika's distribution.
Okay.
I remember like 8 or 9 years ago. But in that case, they didn't do the home video. It was just because apparently Sony can't do their own distribution in Canada for whatever reason.
Oh, I saw Paprika 3 times in 1 week in the theater.
That was
a very, very good week.
It had a good release. That reminds me, when I first saw Paprika, we seriously contemplated seeing it again that night, but it didn't work out that way.
I had seen it with my anime club, a city anime club, the first time. I took my friend to see it the second time, and then he said, we got to take all our friends to see this, and I saw it the third time.
Yeah. Forget new Miyazaki. We need a new Satoshi Kon.
Don't get me started.
One other thing I will say, I hope that when Mongrel Media puts this movie out on home video, that they actually keep the Japanese text credits intact, because it drives me nuts that Funimation doesn't do that. It's like their policy to obliterate the credits and all their localizations, which for TV shows it's fine, but there are certain standards you're supposed to adhere to for cinema, and it's standard practice for foreign movies to leave the credits intact. I don't know why Funimation doesn't respect that. I know they kept the Japanese text credits intact on their Eva 3.33 release, but that's probably only because Kara was breathing down their necks on that one.
I would assume so.
Yeah, so weird that it's not coming out till May, but...
Like, is that theatrically in May?
theatrically in May. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's so far away.
Yeah. So, like, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Psycho Pass is happening. So, and I think that Project Ito stuff that Funimation's working on, that's probably going to be safe too. We're definitely seeing some inconsistencies when it comes to movies getting released here. I mean, last time you were on the show, we were talking about Love Live, and actually I haven't followed up on that. How was your Love Live experience?
It was really disappointing.
Yeah.
When I I was finally, when it got announced, I got pretty excited. But everywhere, Love Live hype really peaked at the American movie release, and it's steadily been declining ever since. There's a new series coming out in the summer, which might give it a boost. But right now, like, it's very much on the down low.
There was definitely about a 4-month window where most of those international releases of the Love Live movie were happening, where the hype was, the hype of having a near simultaneous worldwide release for this film was strong. And, we weren't the only country that was outside of that window, but we may have been the furthest. It was like 4 months after that period was done and gone when it finally landed in theaters here. And from what I saw, at least from the people I know who went to see it, a lot of those theaters were pretty barren.
Yeah. My theater, usually for anime, I would say it's at least 3/4 full almost all the time. And for something really big like Love Live, which I had seen at a con previously, was huge. There was probably like a third of the theater was full. Like, it was very low. The audience was like next to nothing, which was very, very sad as someone who was a big like fan of the franchise. Like, just to see like almost no one caring about it anymore it was very disheartening.
Yeah.
I think a large part of that was as well that the Blu-ray had come out in December.
Yeah,
and people who quote unquote really wanted to see it already saw it. I held on hope for a theatrical release, and I finally got it. But I'm way more patient than most, and people who were still really big in Love Live probably put on their eye patch and pirated it away.
I think even NIS's Blu-ray release had come at that point, because they essentially did an import version, though.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So, I mean, they mostly probably pirated it. But I mean, even people could have bought it at that point as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many did.
Yeah.
And it's just, with a lot of, if this were like most other movies, if this were like Anohana or something like that, I don't think it would be that big of a deal. I think it still would have been great that NIS listened to the complaints and wound up putting it in theaters in the end. It is good that they did that with Love Live. And they probably learned their lesson. I don't think they're ever going to have another, but I don't think they're ever going to have another thing like the Love Live.
I don't think they will. Love Live was their golden goose, and
it's just a wasted opportunity.
And, it really is.
And there's just no way to rectify it at this point, and it's sad because it could have been great. It probably would have done really well. It could have been something to point to as an example, but now we'll never know. So
I just think about like hearing about all the American screenings selling out like across the board, and then I think of the poor little Canadian screening with barely anyone in the theater. I get real sad just thinking about what could have been if it was released on time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't come out till February, which means that NAS didn't even start looking into it until, after it was already a done deal everywhere else, which, definitely unfortunate. But again, I mean, even though it was an 11 Arts release, you'd still think that, the precedent with the other distributors would have helped that happen, but it really doesn't. All these companies go through 11 Arts, and there are definite patterns with all of them. With Funimation, it's still almost guaranteed that we'll get it. With Viz, it's kind of scattershot. Sometimes they'll throw in some Canadian theaters, sometimes they won't, and it's always really limited to the number of Canadian theaters.
Viz has had a pretty good track record as of late.
Yeah.
There were the two Naruto movies, Naruto Last and Boruto.
They didn't do Last in Canada, if I recall correctly.
I thought they did.
They added the Boruto airing at the last minute, and they were very limited. There was like one.
Oh no, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there were like I know in Vancouver I think there was one, maybe two screenings, and they both sold out like in advance. So I mean, it's definitely some are more are holding back a little bit. With Aniplex, it now seems that movies are pretty much a no-go with all of their stuff now.
Unless you live in Nova Scotia, apparently.
Yeah, that was weird. Anthem of the Heart played there.
Yeah.
Dokusei is coming out in a few months. Surprising that they're releasing a BL movie like that.
Yeah, very.
I'm guessing that one's probably not gonna show up in. Well, it's probably not showing up in many theaters in the U.S. either.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but I wouldn't count on that one showing up in Canada. It seems anything even remotely sort of low key or not a big hype title isn't going to show up. And even if it is a big hype title, it seems that with Aniplex they've cut back on Canadian screenings. And just as an aside, where's the Mushishi movie? That thing just that kind of vanished.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was kind of hoping that they would have announced some kind of physical release for Mushishi, and I assumed they were waiting for the movie to be done, but that whole thing just kind of dropped off the earth, and there's no way to see that movie now.
Yeah, Aniplex has been weird with lots of their releases. My friend is very into the Kagero Days Mekaku City Actors franchise, and there's been no news of any kind of release for that, which is pretty interesting too, because that was a series that was at first pretty popular, and now the novels and manga are coming out, and they're both selling well enough to keep going. So I'm surprised that they haven't brought the series out at all. Mm-hmm.
Well, in any case, I think it's safe to say that these screenings getting held back is generally due to the specific licensor and not due to 11 Arts. If there was any, I don't think there's any doubt about that. But
no,
I think we can definitely say that for sure. What we've been seeing lately, I hope it improves. But with stuff like the Love Live movie kind of bombing in Canada, that if anybody wants to interpret that as a way of holding out on the Canadian market, they certainly can. So Amazon had some wonderful news for us this week as well.
Oh yeah, right.
Amazon has confirmed that they have the worldwide rights for streaming to Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, which is a new anime from the team that brought you Attack on Titan. Something that I'm sure will look very enticing on the ads they'll no doubt be flooding us with in a few weeks. But we're not going to be able, as far as we know, we're not going to be able to watch it in here because it's streaming through Amazon Prime Instant Video, which is only available currently in 5 countries, the US, the UK, Germany, Japan, and Austria. And out of those countries, they've actually only announced plans for the US. Apparently, there may be some intentions for Germany as well. But they have confirmed they have the global rights, and apparently they dump an ungodly amount of money on Fuji TV to get the rights to stream not only this series, but also all anime that airs on the Noitamina block on that network moving forward, which is, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, sure does. Noitamina has been a favorite block of mine since it started with Honey and Clover, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm really, this is a very not great move for Canada.
Or anywhere.
Yeah, or anywhere, really.
Again, I mean, I'm sure that Amazon is going to be expanding, but I mean, worldwide rights, 5 countries, that doesn't cut it.
No.
To be clear, we don't know for sure that they have the exclusive global rights. It's possible that they'll sell things off to third parties, but this is definitely the kind of situation where I can see a country like Canada in particular kind of falling through the cracks, though.
It's happened before.
Yeah.
It'll happen again.
Yeah. I know Amazon has a direct deal with Show Me.
Yes.
Or for their original productions only.
Yes.
It's not clear if this is going to qualify as that. If an Amazon Prime original production is anything like a Netflix original, it probably will. Which is it's a meaningless title.
Yeah.
But even then, Show Me has yet to touch any anime outside of Pokemon.
Exactly. Actually, I believe they have a Satoshi Kon movie. I'm not sure which. I think Paprika.
Really?
I believe Paprika is on. Actually, yes, because we were talking about this before, and I had actually, after that, I have a Show Me subscription through my Rogers account.
Okay.
And I saw Paprika on there, and I was like, hey, that's something I should talk about.
Okay, so they have Pokemon and one catalog,
and one movie,
one catalog Sony title
yes.
on their service, which considering that they probably didn't go out of their way for that title specifically,
No.
I don't think it really counts.
I wouldn't say so.
If they do get it, that'd be good. It could potentially be their gateway into streaming more anime.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird that they haven't touched it yet, because I mean, how can you be in that industry and not be aware of how substantial a role anime has playing in it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very Shomi is a very weird service in general. In my limited time using it, I use it very rarely. Their lineup is top line mainstream movies and weird obscure Canadian TV shows.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much what it is, which is really odd. I've actually come around on Shomi to an extent. I think that their movie curation is actually pretty stellar. I think that they have a really good selection, as opposed to Netflix, which is like a good number of mainstream movies and then lots of B movie schlock. And Shomi really doesn't dabble in schlock a lot. And I think this might go towards, like, Shomi also doesn't really deal with independent distributors as much. And I think that's where the anime problem comes into play.
Yeah, and as far as the TV shows go, they seem to be the closest thing we have to like a Hulu here as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I hope that changes. But they definitely only seem to be dealing with the major studios right now.
I mean, if you want to watch sticking around, Shomi's your friend.
Oh man,
yeah. There are some interesting Canadian cartoons that I have not thought of in many years that are on Shomi.
Yeah,
it's been very interesting.
Interesting situation for sure. We'll see where that goes. There's a possibility something positive will come of that. I don't know if I can say the same for Viz's announcement, which is that they are now going to be streaming part 4 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable, which is a real bummer. Definitely the biggest profile acquisition they've made since Sailor Moon.
Unless Crunchyroll says they're doing it as well. It's happened before.
It's possible. We don't know that Viz has it exclusively, but I'm not getting my hopes up on this. That really sucks. I think the one bright side I can take for that is that it may renew complaints about Viz's region practices. Not to say that the Sailor Moon complaints have really died off, but this will at least, get more. It'll stoke the flames a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, no, this is where I get negative, because if Sailor Moon didn't make any waves, I really don't think JoJo's will either. Insofar as getting anything done about it.
Yeah.
I think our best hope, both for like Noitamina and for the Viz stuff, is that they don't have exclusive rights for Canada, and someone like Crunchyroll will pick it up.
Yeah.
I think that's our best bet, because Viz has repeatedly shown that they really don't care about the Canadian market at all, really, besides like whatever they can monetize directly through their own services.
At this point, I'd appreciate it if they just changed that message that pops up on their website when you try to access it from Canada, because it's clear that they're not doing anything.
No, and it's been years at this point.
Years. At this point, like, I think maybe getting more Americans to be angry about it is the key to getting this to work. Maybe if that audience starts doing something about it.
There are like a few pundits for Canada over in America. Like Mike Toole is like, okay, there's one pundit.
It's hard to get people to care.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
because we're just like the kooky neighbors to the north, right?
On that note, it is worth pointing out that while we get Funimation stuff up here, they are kind of leaving some regions in the cold, because when Viz licenses stuff, they get US and Canada all the time. When Funimation licenses stuff, they get the entire North American continent, including Mexico and Latin America. And they are apparently blocking the rights to Mexico and Latin America on a lot of stuff. So Viz isn't the only ones pulling this kind of this kind of stuff. I heard, for one instance, like something like Dagashi Kashi, apparently, even though it's streaming on Funimation and Daisuke is streaming it in the US and Canada, but they can't stream it apparently in Latin America because Funimation is sitting on the rights for Latin America, but they're not doing anything with it there. So Yeah, this stuff is happening everywhere. So one more item. I don't suppose you've had a chance to check out the Adult Swim app that launched the other week yet?
I actually have.
Oh yeah.
My previous one was freezing, and I just got a phone over the weekend, and I've looked at it briefly, and I do really like what I see on it.
Yeah, the library is great. It's got with a few limitations. It's got pretty much everything. I think the only concession is that episodes of Rick and Morty and Robot Chicken that haven't aired in Canada yet are not being uploaded until the initial airing's done. So that's one problem. But for like everything else, it is their whole library that they own. So they don't have home movies or any of the Fox comedies or anime or like the Warner stuff like Children's Hospital or Mike Tyson Mysteries, but their Adult Swim in-house stuff is all there.
Plus Samurai Jack.
And Samurai Jack, yeah. that's a nice bonus.
Yeah.
I've been using it. I think it's pretty great. There are a few limitations on it, like, you know, I tried to run it through my Android tablet onto my TV, but I have to unplug the HDMI when I'm switching between episodes because they won't automatically load. So it's got little problems like that, but for the most part, I find it runs pretty well and I find it usable. Mm-hmm. And of course, they're going to get Chromecast out eventually. Once that's done, that'll settle all those problems.
Yeah, I have an Apple TV, so I can just usually aircast it to there without any problem.
Perfect.
I'm actually not the biggest fan of Adult Swim shows, apart from like 3 or 4 shows. Like Rick and Morty is the first Adult Swim show in a while that maybe really perk up and pay attention to the block. But there are shows in there that I do actually plan on checking out because the app is very well designed, very streamlined. Everything that I see is kind of what an app should be. The show list is just an A to Z list, read out, easy to browse. Everything's easy to find. It's not really a big problem, and like that's what more apps should be.
Interestingly, this app is being run out of the US without any involvement, apart from the few concessions they're making, without any real involvement from Adult Swim Canada or Chorus. And very interesting that they launched this very close to the big switch to Skinny Basic that happened at the beginning of the month too. And I don't know what's going on exactly, but there's been a lot of chaos going on between Adult Swim Canada and stuff on the air. One thing worth noting is that Teletoon at Night, the late night block on Teletoon, was set to end for good at the end of February. In fact, I was planning a moratorium for it and everything. But those plans have changed. They brought it back, and they were gonna premiere the new seasons of Archer on Adult Swim Canada, but now they moved it back to Teletoon at Night, and they're doing it there. Probably because that has a bigger audience, because if you watch Teletoon at Night, you'll see that they have all 18 plus ads running during the show, whereas when you watch Adult Swim Canada, like half the ads are targeted at adults, the other half are just like spillover kids ads from the Cartoon Network hours, which suggests that they make more money by selling overtime on those Cartoon Network kids ads than they do on selling that same ad time to adult advertisers. So that be interesting to see what happens with that. They're also holding the last 4 or 5 episodes of Night Sweats hostage. That got moved to Teletoon at Night as well. Yeah, I know this is remains kind of a wild card issue as far as the anime stuff goes, but definitely worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, it'd be very nice to see like anime on network TV again for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, it's something that's been sorely lacking.
Love Live could work. They started airing on some network I've never heard of in
the
US. But hey, they should give that a shot here, I think. Why not?
Yeah, you never know.
Hey, so just a quick update on what was discussed in this episode. It turns out that Viz Media does not, in fact, have exclusive rights to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4. Crunchyroll has confirmed that they will be streaming the series in Canada, so that particular revolution will have to wait for another day. As for The Boy and the Beast, I still have not received any kind of update from Mongrel Media. I will try my best to keep you updated on that, though, possibly in the next episode. Also keep an eye on the Twitter @ZonanCanada, as I may try to have some information posted there as well. With that out of the way, big thanks to Randy for chatting with me today. The theme song is from Ultraclystron's album Packet Flood, which you can purchase at ultraclystron.com. If you know anyone who might like this show, please recommend it to them. See you again!